Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Daily Bible Podcast.
Welcome back.
Hello. We are back with you on Thursday. It is Thursday before Good Friday, and so we are fast approaching our weekend services. We reminded you yesterday, I'll remind you again today. We got two Good Friday services, 4 and 5:30. We've got Extravaganza, and we've got Easter Sunday, 9 and 11 a.m. So it should be an awesome weekend. We're preparing for it. We hope you're preparing for it. It's going to be a great time. Pastor Mark, did you do Easter baskets growing up? Did your parents do?
Sure did.
Yep.
Sure did.
Did they hide the Easter basket for you?
No, they didn't hide the Easter basket, but they did hide all the things that we had to put into the Easter basket.
Oh, interesting.
So we got the Easter basket, and then we had to run around the house and the yard and find all the stuff.
Find like the chocolate bunny and
and the eggs.
Yeah.
All the classic stuff. So
Yeah.
you know, the Easter bunny as a kid, I loved getting the Easter bunny, the chocolate one. I would never eat it because I was sentimental. I couldn't bring myself to bite its head off.
Well,
Yeah, my kids don't have that problem.
no, I'm sure. I
Have
can't
that
see
problem at
Lincoln
all.
feeling bad about chomping down on those ears.
No.
But if you give him a chocolate tire,
Yeah, he'd be
would that,
devastated.
you don't
Like,
know
no, where's
touch
the
that.
rest of the car? This has to go on it. Yeah.
How about you? How did you get?
Yeah.
The Easter basket.
For me, it was the stuff was in the basket, and the basket was hidden. And I remember finding it like in the dryer and tucked behind a couch and different things like that. But yeah.
You wouldn't want to turn the dryer on with that in there. That'd
No,
be quite a
that
disaster.
would ruin all that chocolate.
Go in there
And
and,
the
get
dryer,
it.
probably.
And the dryer probably too.
Go get it, little PJ.
How about you,
He jumps
Pastor
into
Rod?
the dryer drum. I don't remember. I can't recall. I remember one Easter where I got a skateboard. So I was much older by that point, but I do not remember earlier Easters. I can't tell you.
I never got a skateboard for Easter.
Yeah, well, that's a bummer for you. It was probably my best Easter to that point. I remember it was a maple skateboard. It was a really great board. Solid one too.
How much did you skate growing up?
I did all throughout high school.
Yeah.
And I think I started in middle school, so a
Yeah.
long time.
Wow.
I was really amazingly good. Never got sponsored, but that's how good I was.
Did you break any bones?
Yeah, but not because of skating. It was more adjacent to my skating. Long story.
But
But
you
no,
saying you were so good that the sponsors couldn't afford you?
they couldn't
Is that
afford.
what-
I was like turning down left and right. It's like
That was a good PR man right there. PR for PR.
That's right.
That's awesome.
When
Yeah.
was the last time you went skating?
It was in California. I was on the pastorate at Compass, and I fell. So I did not tell Pastor Mike. Pastor Mike is our sending pastor at Compass Bible Church in Aliso Viejo, because I saw how he responded to other men who got injured doing things, and I thought, I'm just gonna own this. I'm gonna stay quiet. I'm gonna be in pain, and that's okay.
And it was the last time.
It was the last time. Actually, no. Every now and then, if I see a board, I just can't help it. I got to get on and at least pedal a little bit and do a few things. So no, I haven't learned the lesson, to answer your question.
We had a guy back in our college ministry in California who used to be really good with the Razor scooter. He would go to skate parks and flip that thing around and everything else, which that hits my shin when I look at it. So I don't imagine I would enjoy doing that very much.
Yeah, neither would I.
Yeah.
Lincoln goes to the skate park.
Does he?
Yeah, he takes his bike, and he goes on the skate park.
Okay. Does he like whip it around and do backflips and stuff?
Not quite. He
Not
wants
yet.
to. He watches the other people at the skate park
Yeah.
with the intention of someday doing that. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hey, let's jump into our daily Bible reading today. We got Judges 8 and 9 and Luke 8, 22 through 56. So Judges 8, after the battle with the Midianites, which Gideon had won with the few troops that the Lord had sent with them, Ephraim is upset because they want to say, hey, what gives? Why didn't you ask us to come help? And Gideon says, look at what you've accomplished. Give this one to the Lord. This is not about you. And they kind of said, okay, fine, we're with you on that. But crossing back over the Jordan, he's chasing these two Midianite kings. And he comes to this one region, Sukkoth, and he talks to them and he says, hey, I need food for my troops because I'm chasing these Midianite kings. And they basically say, well, why do you boast as though you've already conquered them? Why don't you come back to us after you have these kings? We're not going to help you. We're not going to risk our lives abetting you and helping you while they're still alive, because what if they hear about this and they come after us? At least that's what's implied, it seems. So Gideon goes after the Midianite kings and conquers them. And then he comes back to deal with the leaders of Sukkoth who treated him so poorly. And he does so in a rather aggressive fashion there. After this, Gideon is going to be approached by the people, and they're going to say, hey, we want you to be our king. And you see a little bit of Gideon's humility. Gideon's going to not finish well, but this is one bright spot, is Gideon does deny their request to be the king. He knows that that's not what God has called him to. He knows that that's not what God wants him to do. And he even points them back to Yahweh as their leader. But right after that comes his creation of this golden ephod, which is going to be one of the weaknesses towards the end of his life. He's going to die, and after his death, the people are going to go after this ephod and treat it as an idol, and they're going to worship that. It's a graven image, and he was prohibited from doing that, and it's going to become a snare to him and his own family as well. Chapter 9, we've got Abimelech.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I do want to observe, though, that he names his son Abimelech the end of chapter 8,
Yes,
before we
does.
get into what we see in chapter 9. And that means son of the king. So even though earlier in this chapter, he points the people back to God as their rightful king, there's something going on here. And we don't know exactly when Abimelech is born, right? Maybe he's born after his statement in the verses above, but there is some sense in which the first king of Israel is Gideon. I don't think it's never stated that way, but I do think there are hints of that, and even with the ephod that we looked at and some of the issues that we see. But Abimelech definitely gets the name son of the king.
He does. Yeah, Abi meaning son of, Melech meaning king. And so that's where we get the son of the king title there. Yeah, and he comes on the scene in chapter 9, and he is not a good dude. He makes a
Not at
power
all.
play. And he's saying, well, if I'm Abimelech, if I'm the son of the king, I'm going to be the king myself. And so he goes after and wipes out almost all of his brothers, kills all but one. And after this, the people of Shechem, at least, they make him king. And so is Abimelech, you mentioned Gideon, but is Abimelech formally the first king of Israel? Or should we say, no, Saul is still the first king of Israel?
I mean, I think there's definitely an argument to be made that Abimelech is the first king of Israel, but he is not established as king by God. And I do think that even with Saul's failings and issues, he is nonetheless established by God as king of Israel. So in some sense, yes. But I think in the true sense and how the Bible talks about it, Saul is the first true king of Israel.
Yeah, for sure. And in chapter 9, throughout the whole thing, the whole point is what happens here is simply humanity and fallen humanity happening to itself. And Jotham, who's the one brother of Abimelech that he doesn't kill, gives a prophecy of sorts before running away again, where he says, hey, if this is of God, great. But if not, then you guys are going to basically destroy yourselves. And that's really what happens in the rest of chapter 9 under Abimelech's quote unquote reign. Is things are not good for him because he's an unrighteous ruler, and things are not good for the people because they rebel against him and they end up really destroying themselves. Obviously, God is sovereign over all of this, and Abimelech is going to have some high points. He has some victories, but he doesn't recognize God's hand behind that. And in the end, he meets this tragic and humiliating defeat and death when a woman on top of a mill tower throws a stone down on his head and kills him, and he has to ask his armor bearer to thrust him through there. So this is kind of chapter 9 is like, okay, this is a little bit of a glimpse in there was no king in Israel during those days, even though ironically he claimed to be, and men did as they pleased. This is God giving us a picture into when he says, and the people of Israel again did evil against the Lord. I think this is God opening up the window and saying, this is what I mean by that.
And I think we see that through the narrative. There's a theme that runs throughout here of hiding and running and kind of scurrying away. I mean, it begins with Gideon's introduction back a couple chapters ago, where he's hiding in the vineyard, right? Avoiding being seen by the Midianites.
Don't say wine.
And then, he's running away at different points, right? And then even here specifically, right, we see that Jotham is running away, hiding, and then we are going to see also that Gaul is running away and hiding. So I think we see that this is not how it's supposed to work. And that's just a simple narrative tool that I think is in play here. But I think it's really there to indicate that this is not the way things are supposed to be.
Indeed. And you see here is that leadership plays such a strong role in the life of any people, much less the life of God's people, that when you choose poorly, you should expect, in this case, the bramble to work against you. Such is the case with any kind of leadership, whether it's in your own particular family or at your church or in your job. The leader is going to make such a critical difference in the experience and the life and the quality of the people they serve. Here, Abimelech takes from the people. He doesn't serve them. He's not laying down his life for them. They're his servants, and they pay dearly for the fact that he leads the way that he does. And I think this is just a reminder for us who have any position of leadership, whether it's just a leader in a family or a leader in a little league or a leader in some other capacity. Leadership really matters. And the quality of leadership will have devastating effects for those below them if their leadership is anything other than God's leadership.
And if you're a godly leader and you're called to leadership, if somebody asks you to fill a role in leadership, in particular in the church, you should take that call. I mean, I think one of the things you see that Jotham calls out some of these people for, you don't hear the names of them, but there's leaders who seem to be righteous people, faithful people, but they all say, no, we're not going to take this. We don't want this. And so the leadership defaults to the bramble, right? To the worst. And so I do think just if you have that opportunity and you understand that God has given you leadership abilities and somebody calls you to that role, take it. I think that would be an appropriate application of what we see here.
Is there anyone you want to call out right now, Pastor Mark, for kids ministry? And
no,
just put that on the podcast.
I'm not on the podcast.
Paging.
But I have. I've asked people.
Yeah,
I've asked people to step
no.
into leadership.
They should listen to this podcast. Let's send them the link to this podcast and make sure that they respond. No, you should.
I'm not thinking of anybody in particular, but I do think.
But what are their initials, though? If you were,
we adjure you.
Well, they're and yeah.
Did you say Eugen?
No,
that's not name
Eugen
dropping.
is great.
What about verse 23? Because this might turn into a question, but verse 23, it says, God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the leaders of Shechem. Is this an angelic being from the presence of God sent to oppose evil people, or is this God's exercise of authority over the demonic realm, dispatching a demon between Abimelech and the people?
Is this the angel of Yahweh, is what you're asking,
No.
right? So we can get into that discussion.
No, why are you so sensitive? Why are you so defensive? Pastor Mark, you need to calm down, man. Why are you so uptight about this? No, I'm just kidding. No, this is just, my question is, do you think this is an angel from the presence of God, a holy angel sent to oppose these evil groups? Or is this a spirit that's a demon that God is exercising authority over, saying, I'm going to send this demon, the way that even when Satan came before his presence with Job, God said, have you considered my servant Job? Behold, he's in your hand. Is this God releasing what had maybe previously been a protective measure against Abimelech and the people by allowing the demonic realm to have more influence?
I don't have the Hebrew in front of me, but based on the ESV, it does seem to indicate an evil spirit. So the spirit is identified as evil. So I don't think it's an angelic being, at least a righteous angelic being. But I do think that it is because of the way, at least the ESV says. Maybe one of you guys with Logos open can look at it more carefully. But I do think that ESV indicates that it would be a demonic force.
The words that are there would it's the same word that we'll use for spirit. We'll just say it that way. But I think it probably alludes not to an actual spirit as in something ethereal that we often think of, but a disposition. This is actually how Logos, the Sense Dictionary, describes it, a disposition of animosity or hostility between these people groups. What's this translation I'm looking at here next to it? There's another translation I'm looking at that says that God sent a spirit to stir up hostility between Abimelech and the leaders of Shechem. So I guess that's a sense. Whether it actually is a non-physical being, it could be that, or whether it is just a spirit as in a disposition of animosity between the two. Either way, I think we're in a pickle by saying, well, how does God do this? And I think the pickle for me is resolved by just simply acknowledging God can't not be part of every single action that takes place, but how he relates to that action is asymmetrical to his relationship to righteous actions. With righteousness, he is directly involved. He is a God who does good things. He institutes good. He directs good. With evil, even though he can't not be part of it because he is a sovereign ruler of all things, his relationship is asymmetrical. He's related, he's involved, but not to the same degree and not in the same way that he is involved with good. And so this is just theological truth. God sends, God does, God permits, God allows. We like these words better because they convey a sense of distance between God and the act. But we have no problem saying God sent. God does all things. God controls all things. And so to say that God sends or God allows, God permits, theologically, we're saying much the same thing. We're just trying to help you understand and ourselves understand really the way that God relates to evil is not the same as the way he relates to good.
Yeah, I believe that was the Net and the NIV both. The NIV says animosity between, and the Net says hostility between, which on that point is a good reason why translation comparisons can be helpful. As long as you're using good Bibles that are out there, consulting multiple translations can give you different insight into the text. So that was helpful.
Yeah, comparing multiple translations is a way to understand the Greek that you may not have studied or know yourself. And that reason for that is there's going to be words that different translations, faithful translations, are going to interpret differently and use different English words for. By and large, most of the words are going to be the same. But when there's words like this, even evil spirit, it's helpful to compare how other translations, again, faithful ones, use that word, because that'll give you some insight for somebody who doesn't know Greek into maybe some of the particular questions or challenges that the word, I guess we're talking Hebrew right now, presents.
Okay, so faithful translations, we've said that a few times. Let's throw some that are out there just so that we give some helpful guidelines, because some people may be listening to this going, okay, you're saying that, but how do I know what faithful translations would be? So we would say the ESV for sure, because that's the text that we preach from. We'd say that the NASB is a faithful translation, New American Standard Bible. We would
Which
say
year?
I'm okay with any of the versions. The 95 is the OG. Well, I mean, that was an update, but that's the one that I was first introduced to, but it was just recently updated to.
It's probably easier to list the versions they should stay away from, because there's so many good English translations, and they all have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
There's certain translations that we would say, that's not a good one. Like the Passion Translation.
Yeah.
That's one that we would say, don't do that one. That one's, and by the way, any translation that relies only on one guy, that's going to be one of the biggest red flags. That's maybe saying too much. Minimum, a yellow flag. Because one person on a translation committee means that he makes all the decisions, where with modern translations, there's going to be a committee of men and women who are studied and skilled with the languages before them, and they work together to come to a conclusion about this is a good translation of this particular text, like the CSB or the ESV or the NASB, or what's the new one called? The
LSB.
slave, yeah, the
Slave Bible.
the slave Bible, the LSB. But there's other ones. So the Message is one that I like, but that's a transliteration, not a translation. It's a
Paraphrase.
paraphrase. Thank you. I like that. But notice it's a paraphrase. It's not a translation. And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So we would say stay away from the Passion, stay away from the New World Translation. That is the Jehovah's Witness version of the Bible. That is not authorized. It's not good. It's poorly translated and even not very beautifully translated too. I would say that at least. Are there any other translations that you guys would say stay away from?
Not that come to the forefront of my mind right away. There are some others that are out there. Wasn't there an NIV that used gender ambiguous terms? Not the traditional NIV.
I think that was 2011.
Yeah. Well, that's some of the criticism with even the NASB revisions after 95.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But this is where
we're nerding out together in the office. So,
how about this? What would be 3 translations that you would recommend if somebody were to do a word comparison? Which would you recommend? How about that? Because not everybody's not going to have 40 different translations. But if they didn't have any idea and there was 3 that they were going to do a word comparison with, what would you recommend?
So my go-to, I have ESV, English Standard Bible, ESV. I've got the Net, New English Translation, and I've recently done the Legacy Standard Bible. Those are the 3 that I consult most regularly. I've got some others mixed in there, but those are 3 that I would recommend.
I'd affirm those.
Yeah, I would add the CSB. I find the CSB is helpful.
Yes, Christian Standard Bible.
Yeah.
Yep. So there you go. Hopefully that's a bonus, just helpful homiletic interpretation, hermeneutical. That's the word I was looking for. Anyways, let's jump over to our New Testament reading, which is going to be in Luke chapter 8. Luke chapter 8, we're dealing with a lot of familiar territory here. Jesus is calming the storm, the Gerasene demoniac, which again, Luke records 1, Matthew recorded 2. I don't think we need to panic there. I think we're just talking about probably the spokesperson between these two. You've got, again, the situation where recognize the demons are subject to Christ. And that's important to note here. Just like I referenced earlier, Satan appearing before the throne of God, he needs permission before he can afflict Job. Here the demons are subject to Christ. They're going to beg Jesus to let them enter the pigs. And so they can't just decide to do whatever they want to do, especially at least not in the presence of Christ. They have to seek permission from him. But you've got that scene. And again, because this is Gentile territory, this demoniac, Jesus is not going to tell him to keep it quiet, but he's going to tell him to go tell everybody what you've seen and what you've heard. Then after this, you've got the daughter, Jairus' daughter, and the woman with the bleeding condition there where Jesus heals this woman. I don't think passively, I think actively. He was aware. I think he was drawing her out into this expression of faith by saying, who touched me? He knew, being God, I believe he was aware. He knew because this was a healing act. And she says, it was me. Meanwhile, Jairus' daughter dies, but he says, don't worry, this is not death. She's merely sleeping. And Jesus restores the daughter again. So a lot of familiar territory here in Luke chapter 8.
What do you make of the fact that it seems like the demons resist Jesus? You just got done saying that Jesus has authority over them. And yet, in verse 28, the demoniac cries out, falls down before Jesus, and said with a loud voice, what have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me. For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. So he already said that, I want you to come out. And yet it seems like the response is, well, before I leave, can you help answer some questions for me? In the parallel account in Matthew, it's a lot cleaner and a lot more clear, rather, I should say that Jesus did say at least once, be gone. And yet they persist. How do you guys understand that? What do you do with that?
I think it's a Jesus still in control, but employing all of this and doing all this in a teaching opportunity with the disciples. Even like when he healed the blind man who first saw people walking around like trees and then later was able to see clearly. Jesus has a reason behind everything that he's doing. In other places, we see the demons cast out immediately. So it's not that Jesus couldn't do this or that this was a demon more powerful because of even what they do later. They beg permission. But I think Jesus is teaching and even showing the authority that he does have over them by drawing this one out a little bit longer.
I would agree. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, I guess one point that just is speculative, but I just want to point it out here. In verse 30, he asks them what their name is, or he asks him what his name is. And the demonic horde responds, Legion. And he says, for many demons had entered him. So this is just me thinking out loud here with you guys as I think through texts like this. Stuff like this bothers me. It tracks me and it stops me and I say, okay, how is this possible? Jesus has all authority. How is it possible that they're given the command to go and yet they don't go? Well, maybe one of the answers that's possible is that in the demonic legion, a legion is, I don't know, 5,000, 6,000, I forget the exact number that it refers to, but that's a technical number for the people at the time. So it's possible that maybe he did tell a demon to leave and then that guy does leave, but there's still thousands left. And so it's possible that Jesus is now talking to a different demon. And now they're saying, well, what do we have to do with you, Jesus? Why are you, don't torture us before the time. That's possible. I'm not going to bang my hand on the table for that. But just as I'm working through the text here, that's how I dealt with that. I do think there is a legitimacy to Jesus saying, I'm teaching. I want you to see how I handle this. That's obviously always on the table for me. I think about that as well. But when I start thinking about questions like this, that's one that came to mind.
Well, it's even fascinating that Jesus asks singular, but asks, what is your name?
Yeah.
That's not something he has to ask,
Right.
right? That's not something that he doesn't know or doesn't have access to knowing, but he asked that question.
Oh, yeah. Books on spiritual warfare make the case that there was a belief going around at the time that to have power over a person, you had to know what their name was, or to have power over an entity in this case. I don't know that Jesus needs anything like that. He doesn't struggle for having lack of a name, but there is something interesting about the fact that he says, what is your name? Almost like you're in trouble now. You're getting called to account. I'm taking down names, buddy, and I'm not holding anything back. Another point from this text that I always want to point out to you, just because I know that today there's a lot of confusion about this, is that people are more important than the pigs.
Yeah.
I want to see that. These two demon-possessed men were worth at least, I forget how, there's a number here for how many pigs there were, but it was more than two. It's not a one-to-one correlation here. Jesus values people far more than he values animals. And that's something that we got to keep in mind. There's nothing wrong with having pets and dogs and cats and gerbils or chinchillas, whatever your fancy is. But people are more important by orders of magnitude. And I think you need to remember that. It's a good time for us to be reminded. As much as we love animals, I love the fact that I can see on the drive home right now, especially with all the traffic and the construction that's going on, I have to take a route that makes me pass by one of the farms that are nearby. And I see the longhorns every day. I think it's awesome. I enjoy that. I enjoy the horses. I used to see a camel down the frontier. No longer. They got rid of the camel. But I like animals. That's my point. And I think God likes animals. God likes his creation, but he loves his image. And the fact that people bear his image give us a greater value than anything else in all creation. And that would be a good thing for you to recall.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Can I ask one more question?
No.
Do we buy Pastor Rado an animal for his birthday?
A camel,
We'll get him
please.
a pig.
Okay.
I want to do a camel and pretend to be a
He's
lamb.
Jewish. He couldn't eat it.
I couldn't
So-
eat it. I don't even know if I can hang out with it.
So do you think these demons expect to go into the pigs who are then going to go into the water?
Expect.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know. They're not omniscient. They don't
Right.
possess the kind of knowledge and omniscience that Jesus. I don't know if he even tapped into his omniscience here. I don't think that they have any expectations. I think they're asking with an awareness that Jesus is a merciful God because they know who he was pre-incarnate, because the demons themselves were created before this point in time. So I think they know who Jesus is. They're trying to avoid what they know to be the ultimate end, which is their judgment, and they're being bound. Here, I think they're begging Jesus to show them mercy, and surprisingly, he does.
So when the pigs go into the water, the pigs die. Does that mean that the demons die along with the pigs?
What do you think?
This is a question I've asked myself since I was a kid,
Really?
and I don't know. But it seems like that's the implication. But from what I also know of the spiritual realm, right, the demons are not attached physically to the pigs.
Yeah.
So I would be inclined to say no, they don't. But then it begs the question of why do the pigs need to go into the water for them to be removed?
Two things. First, my understanding is the angelic realm are immortal, not eternal, but immortal.
Right.
So there's no death to the angelic beings.
That's
Second, I think one of the reasons potentially they went into the pigs is the response of the town people. Because when the town people come out, they're angry and they kick Jesus out. They say, we don't want you here, because they're angry over the loss of profit, that the pigs are gone now and that's going to cost them and they're not going to be able to sell those pigs at market anymore. So perhaps the demons, in one last, we'll show you, went into the pigs, drove them over the cliff, and the town people now come out and they're angry with Jesus and kick him out.
I think that's it. And that's, you see them, all the people asked him to depart. They were seized with great fear.
It was 2,000 pigs.
I think that's what it is. And 2,000 pigs is
2,000
a lot of pigs.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of pigs.
Yeah. And I think the demonic horde loves death and destruction. And so in whatever way they can reap that kind of destruction, I think they want to. And I agree. I don't think it kills them. I think it just displaces them temporarily. They enjoy, for whatever reason, to be in a host. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's pray, and then we'll be done with this episode. Lord, as we were talking about earlier, we're grateful for the abundance of resources, the wealth of resources that we have of the English translations that you provided for us of your word, that we can consult these different translations and see a unified theme and yet get different insight into different words, and not disparate interpretations, but just different glosses, different understandings that help us to comprehend what you're saying more effectively. So I pray that we would take advantage of these things, that we would utilize these resources, especially since so many of them are available online to us, and that we would be faithful stewards of your word. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Keep reading those Bibles and tune in again tomorrow, Good Friday, for another edition of the Daily Bible Podcast. See you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Daily Bible Podcast. We're grateful you chose to spend time with us today. This podcast is a ministry of Compass Bible Church in North Texas. You can learn more about our church at compassntx.org. If this podcast has been helpful, we'd appreciate it if you'd consider leaving a review, rating the show, or sharing it with someone else. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Bible Podcast.